Support for Radio Friends comes from Columbia Healthy Smiles, the dental office of husband and wife team Dr. Batson and Dr. Abe, offering comprehensive and customized care to patients of all ages. Learn more by calling 573-721-9039 or online at www.columbiahealthysmiles.com. Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Wednesday, January the 27th. Good to have you with us. Almost through the first month of 2021, which is kind of hard to believe. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, John Howe, author of The Foolish Corner. And John, you've been with us, 4 or 5 times now?
At least that. I mean, even more. Yeah, absolutely.
Talking about money, The Foolish Corner. You're a professor with the university. We've talked about many different aspects of how to spend money and how to save money. Today, you want to deal with?
I'd like to deal with what the field of behavioral economics has to say about the law, and in particular, I'm thinking about a courtroom setting.
Okay, so behavioral economics, what do you mean by that?
Well, behavioral economics is kind of the intersection between psychology and economics. So it's basically the attempt to put what we know about psychological phenomena into economics models. And in particular, we focus on biases, most of which, if not all, are kind of subconscious, not really at our awareness, implicit biases of all kinds, and how they affect our decision making.
Yeah, we've talked about biases in the past, about spending money or buying a particular product that we are biased for.
Absolutely.
And we can make our mind rationalize that it is the correct thing to do.
We can talk ourselves into lots of things. Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
So how does this fit into the law?
Okay, so again, behavioral economics has to do with these implicit biases, these subconscious biases that we have. So perhaps the most obvious one would be that there are racial biases. And in doing some research, I found that there's pretty substantial evidence, for example, that black offenders get longer sentences for the same crimes as white offenders.
Yes.
And this is not necessarily a conscious choice on the part of a judge who's making the sentencing decision. This is, again, more of a subconscious sort of bias. But it shows up in the data, and so there is this notion of a racial bias. It's not typically the type of bias that's thought of when we think about behavioral economics, but it's still obviously a very important one.
Yeah. Okay, explain.
Well, again, people come to the world with all kinds of biases of which they're largely not aware, and racial bias is one type, and so it apparently influences the sentencing decisions made by judges.
But it has to be taught. A bias has to be taught. You're not ingrained with that when you're born.
That's probably too difficult a question to tackle in this context. But there's some notion, for example, just to give you a simple example, that because of evolutionary psychology, we have a sense of who's in our group and who's out of our group. And then the question is, then how do we distinguish? And so something like a skin color might be one way to distinguish an in from out. Again, I'm not talking about a conscious process here,
okay.
but we may be kind of psychologically built to have biases.
Okay. I hadn't thought of it that way because I always felt that biases were learned. They were learned from when you were a child.
I'm sure they can be reinforced by one's environment. There's no doubt about that.
Okay,
yes.
Economics, so where we go there.
Okay, well, in terms of behavioral economics, we've talked in the past about overconfidence, and this is we call that a bias. It's certainly some sort of a cognitive limitation because it can lead to bad decisions. So I'd like to think about overconfidence in the context of the law. So I think it pops up almost everywhere. So if we think about someone who's thinking about committing a crime, for example, they could well be overconfident about their ability to get away with it. Get away with it. Yeah, I mean, they just think, well, I'm a smart guy. I can do this, and I can say guy because more crimes are committed by men than by women. So we might have overconfidence, and then if they get caught, They might be overconfident about beating the rap, so to speak. Well, I can tell a story on the stand. I'll get out from underneath this. That overconfidence influences their decision making, and probably in a way that's not good. If, for example, if they think they can beat the rap, so to speak, they may turn down what is quite a reasonable plea bargain. So this overconfidence can really kind of hurt the decision making of a criminal. The defense lawyer might be overconfident and say, yeah, I think we can beat this.
Okay, how do we know if when we're reacting to something, we are reacting with overconfidence and not reality?
Well, that's a really good question, because since these tend to be very implicit or subconscious, we really have to work hard at being aware of them and then asking ourselves, what can I do to counterbalance that if it's there? So, for example, I mean, the most, probably the easiest way to do that is to run what we might call some counterfactuals. And by that I mean, if I were the criminal, I might say, well, what if I'm wrong about this? I mean, I feel pretty confident that I can beat this rap, but what if I'm wrong about this? What are the consequences? I might get 25 years
But
in jail.
how many criminals? How many criminals do you think sit down and really analyze it? Come on, I think if you're a criminal and somebody's out to steal something, they're just darn stupid.
Well, I'm not saying this is a common. You asked me how we might go about it.
Okay.
So maybe a lawyer or a counselor of some sort might suggest this to them. Absolutely. But I think probably right that your instincts are right that very few will actually do it.
Right. Okay. I mean, it really is an interesting topic there to think about. Are you covering this in the book?
Well, my book, which is called The Foolish Corner, as you pointed out, really just deals with personal financial decision making.
Okay.
And so this is a little bit beyond the book, but still well within the realm of behavioral economics.
Yeah. Now, you also have a newsletter how often is a newsletter coming out?
The newsletter is a monthly newsletter. It comes out the first of every month, and the sign up for it will be on the YouTube. It's on the screen now. Will also be on the YouTube video.
Yeah.
And I will say quickly that it's free. I'm not selling anything. I won't sell your email.
Okay.
There's
so
no
the newsletter is free if you want it, and it's dealing with financial issues, right?
Yes, it is.
Behavioral issues too?
Behavioral almost exclusively.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want that newsletter, it's free. You go to John. You can sign up to John Howe, JOHNHOWE.substack.com/welcome.
That is it.
And
Thank you.
That'll get you the newsletter. So what's in one of the first newsletters?
Well, the one I'm working on for this month is in fact this very issue, law. But in the past, we've done overconfidence. I've done overconfidence in my newsletter, and we've talked about it here. And there are just a bunch of others. I'm coming up on the 10th newsletter.
Okay. And the book is called The Foolish Corner, and it's available.
It's available on Amazon as a print on demand or also as an ebook.
Okay. Thank you very much, John. I appreciate it. And please come back to visit with us.
I would love to do so.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
We're out of time for today. If something you'd like to hear or see, I would love to hear from you. Simply drop me an email at pepperp.missouri.edu. Bye-bye.